February 2, 2021, William Red Stevens, a well-known general in the notorious 27s gang, is sitting outside his home in Kraaifontein, a northern Cape Town suburb in South Africa. Suddenly, three men carrying army-grade weapons appear from nowhere and all hell breaks loose. Time seemed to stand still for a moment as the general comes face to face with what seems to be his inevitable fate. This is the story of the hit that took out one of the most feared gang lords in Cape Town. This is a deep dive into a world where many enter and very few make it out. William Stevens' story began in the high-density suburbs of Cape Town. For many young men in these areas, gang life is a route many take to try and escape the hardships of their environment. It is often debated on how these youngsters end up this way. Many people blame the past inequalities of apartheid, and some challenge this view as they blame the characters of these individuals. But one thing is certain: once you decide to slide into this rabbit hole, the only way out is death, and in most cases, a violent death. William first encounters gang life in prison as an adolescent. You see, most South African prisons are ruled by what is called the numbers gang. The young man decides to join the 26 gang. But within a couple months, it becomes obvious to the leaders that they have a whole different animal on their hands. Their new recruit has an unquenchable thirst for blood. His peers start to call him Red, and he later joins the 27 gang. It is said that the man stabbed his way into the 27 gang, abandoning the 26 gang in the process. He is now respected by both the 26 and the 27 gang, and he wastes no time climbing the ranks to general. Once he is released, he starts running the street operations of the gang in Cape Town. Back during his prison days, the man learned that the 27's duty is to enforce the law among the different gangs in prison. Stevens starts capitalizing on this strength as he started to sell protection to other gangs on the street. But this is against the rules of the 27 gang, as he was strictly forbidden from making money on the street as a 27. The man decides to abandon rules and reformat himself as a standalone 27 gang on the streets. He starts selling his assassins to the highest bidder, and this was bound to clash with other numbers gangs, namely the 26 and 28. You see, the underworld has rules on how they operate, and whenever there is change, enemies are bound to be made. And in this world, things can escalate very quickly. The general is now the go-to plug for assassins. Whenever someone wants something to be taken care of, they just pick up the phone and hit Red. Just across town, on the flamboyant parts of Cape Town in Sea Point, a certain kingpin has a problem. His name is Mark Liffman. You see, Liffman has ambitions to dominate the Cape Town investment and property market, but he has been clashing with a certain man named Brian Weinstein, aka the Steroid King. Brian is no small fish in this underworld business. The man is called the Steroid King for a reason. Each week, Brian illegally imports raw materials from Turkey, Greece, and China to make steroids in South Africa. He then resell the steroids in the South African market, making up to 600,000 rand in profits each month. But his business is no problem to Liffman. The problem comes from how this dirty money is to be cleaned. Most underworld kingpins tend to buy properties and businesses to try and legitimize the dirty money. Liffman and Weinstein start to clash on these properties and investments, and when two forces collide, one is bound to be decimated. Liffman knows that when you need a job done, there is one man you call. He then picks up the phone and makes the call, and for a few seconds the call rings with no answer. William Red Stevens is busy showering when he hears the one ringtone that only rings when it's business time. The man picks up the phone, and the only words exchanged is a name and a six-figure number. The line goes dead, and without knowing, Brian Weinstein now has a price on his head, and the King of Assassins is bound to collect his prize. The Steroid King has a known enemy in Mark Liffman, but what he doesn't know is that there is another enemy very, very close to him. His own bodyguard has links to the enemy. The man is the leader of his security, and he spends most of his time protecting his home in Constantia. He gets 10,000 rand per month for his services, but he is not satisfied by this. The man wants to take over the steroid business. The underworld tend to revolve around the same circles, mostly among the small fish of the industry. The bodyguard had been recommended to Weinstein by a man called Sam Farquharson, an associate of Liffman. William Red Stevens finishes dressing himself, and in the back of his mind is whom he was to equip with the responsibility of taking out the Steroid King. He starts scrolling down the contacts on one of his phones, and the man comes to a stop on two names, Cheslin Adams and Fabian Cupido. These men are his most trusted hitmen, and they are part of the 27 gang. The call is made and a meeting is scheduled for the two hitmen, the general and other kingpins linked to Liftman. Cheslin Adams and Fabian Cupido walk into a club in Cape Town. Seated in the VIP section is the General Reds, a business associate who owns a tire business, and the two bodyguards of the steroid king, Matthew and Sheldon Breet. They seat next to the general and the meeting begins. The plan was to go as follows. Matthew was to give the house information to the two assassins with the help of Google Maps. He was to leave the back door unlocked, the alarm and the electric fence off. The group of men agree to shake hands and the deal is sealed. It's now August 17, 2017. Cheslin Adams and Fabian Cupido are on their way to Constantia in a Bantam Bakkie. They make a stop in Meet Matthew and a vehicle exchange is done. They are now inside a VW Golf, speeding towards the luxurious home of Brian Weinstein, the steroid king. Brian Weinstein is sleeping in his home when Adam and an accomplice enter the room. They gain entry through the back door left unlocked. Adams raises his weapon and before he shoots, two small eyes looks at him in a state of shock. It's the small child of Brian Weinstein sleeping right next to the mother near the steroid king. The man hesitates for a moment, and moments later, 5 shots are heard by Cupido, who is waiting by the getaway car. A few minutes pass before Adams and the accomplice appear from the home before jumping into the getaway vehicle and leave the scene. Cupido, still worried about the 5 shots he heard, asks Adam if he remembered to only shoot the steroid king and leave the woman and the child as agreed. The man looks at him and says, "I hope those little eyes won't remember my face." And with that, the first domino towards the assassination of the 27 general had just fallen. The news quickly reaches Liftman and his associates. The man pays the 250,000 rand to the king of assassins, and for a while, everything seems to be going as planned. You see, the death of a big fish in the underworld is bound to attract attention. And this is exactly what happens. The South African anti-gang unit are now laser-focused on this case, and they manage to make an arrest. The man is one of the shooters on the fateful night in Constantia. While in the holding cells, he tries to make a call to one of the kingpins, but it becomes clear to him that he has been cut off. The man decides to become a state witness, testifying against the kingpins involved in the assassination. This leads to the arrest of Mark Liftman, Boysen, and the general himself, William Red Stevens. The 3 men manage to post 100,000 rand bail, leading to their release, but relations are now sour due to the testifying 27 gang member. Word hits the street that the 27 gang member is now a state witness. This angers the kingpins involved in the hit, but not only them, other functions of the 27 who are not part of General William Stevens' gang become enraged as this now tarnishes their image. They had previously warned the man on going against the gang's traditions. This now puts a target on the general's head, as he is now being blamed as the leader of this rogue function. It's the 2nd of February 2021. The general is sitting outside his home in Kraaifontein. Suddenly 3 men appear from his rear and gunshots erupt on the scene. The general is showered by bullets from semi-automatic weapons. The men finish the job and vanish through the settlements around the area. The king of assassins finally meets his end in the most brutal way possible. But this is just the beginning. Whenever a high-ranking kingpin is eliminated in the underworld, a war is bound to begin. Subscribe and turn on notifications for the next chapter on the deep dive into the underworld of South Africa.